In order to obtain a commercial driver license, you have to go to the state to get a permit to allow you to be trained and mentored during the learning process. Before you do that, you have to pass a knowledge test. A commercial license is regulated by the federal government. It looks like this. It has on it your name, the license number, the state that issues the license, your birth date, expiration date, your address, the class. It have to be class A to drive a combination vehicle, height, your weight, age, the color of your eyes, color of your hair. Back of the license, you will have the what can you do with it. It looks like this. I read it to you. This is a Class A license, a combination vehicle, over 26,000 gross vehicle weight rating, and towed units over 10,000 gross vehicle weight rating, endorsement hazmat, H hazardous material. Class A, of course, you have to have air brake. Air brake is not an endorsement, it is part of the commercial driver license because all the vehicles that you deal with will require air brakes. Who administer commercial transportation in the United States? That is the United States Department of Transportation, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And you get a letter like this when somebody looks for your records from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. In the letter, that is in Washington, D.C. In the letter, it tells you who is trying to get to your record to find out whether you have accidents or not, whether you are licensed or not, whether you can travel across state lines or not. So the question is, why do you need a commercial driver license? Why can't you drive a truck with a passenger driver license? Commercial vehicles have very peculiar specification. First, as you see, the vehicle is too long, it's too wide, and it's too high. Most of these vehicles about 13 feet and 6 inches high. The combination vehicle from the tail to the nose is about 75 or 72 feet long. Everything here is long, high, and wide, and heavy. Because of that, you will have to have general knowledge about the mechanics of inertia, momentum, angular acceleration, and energy. If you did not learn that in school, if you don't know what momentum does, what creates momentum, what creates energy, what creates force, and the effect of weight distribution, you will learn that in the course of getting your commercial driver license. Most important thing you have to realize that commercial vehicles use air brakes, not fluid brakes or oil brakes. The air brakes has advantage is that you can compress it to very high pressure, about almost 125 psi, inside the tanks, gas tanks or air tanks, using the engine to operate a compressor, so you can release the air to cylinders or drums at the brakes. Every wheel would have a brake on it. That will enable you to apply a lot of braking forces with very little effort by just turning the valve, either by your fingers or by your foot. That is why you're using air to brake the vehicle during the motion because the vehicle has a lot of momentum. Momentum means high weight moving at high speed, or you can say weight times the speed. That creates momentum. What creates energy is the momentum times the speed. That creates energy. What creates force is when the momentum changes over time. That will create force. What creates inertia? Inertia is the weight or the mass content of the vehicle that makes the vehicle very hard to stop. Why air, not liquid? We said air can be compressed to very high pressure levels, and you can apply the pressure as a brake through hoses, airlines that start from the engine to the compressor and stretches all the way to every wheel of the truck or the bus. Every commercial vehicle have to have two kinds of brake, what you call it emergency brakes supplied by the red air line. The emergency brakes are what we call them passive brakes. Passive because there is a huge spring in the drum. That spring is active or stretched or expanded. Engine is off. So when it expands, it applies the brake automatically by expansion of an elastic stainless steel spring loaded in every drum around every wheel except the steer. Steer does not have emergency brakes. Even the trains have that mechanism, the emergency brakes. That will stop the vehicle if the engine fails or if the engine stalls. Other way, if you want to stop the bus, a truck, a train, all you have to do is to disable the engine. The engine will disable the air compressor. The air compressor will fail to produce high air pressure. The emergency brake will boom, explode, expand suddenly, locking all brakes of the commercial vehicle. Now we have two new pieces of information about the air brakes. The air brakes are used in commercial vehicle because they are heavy. They have a lot of momentum, a lot of energy when they move. They require very high pressure of air to apply enormous braking power at the wheels. You learned something else, that all commercial vehicles have to have emergency brakes. Those are passive brakes using stainless steel springs loaded inside a metal drum that is mounted at each wheel. Emergency brakes stop the vehicle when the engine of the vehicle is not running. Another thing beside, we talked about the mass or the weight of the vehicle is high. We talk about the dimension or the length, the width and the height is bigger than a passenger car. We're talking about the velocity of the vehicle that creates momentum and energy. Now you need to learn something else. It's very important and very specific to commercial vehicles. The weight distribution, how much weight you have in this wheel, how much weight you have on this wheel, how much weight you have on this wheel, how much weight on you have the other wheel. This is the bus. The bus has 6 wheels, 3 on this side and 3 on the other side. The combination tractor trailer has 5 axles. That means 10 wheels. That's 2 axles in the back. 2 axles will drive the truck, and 1 axle will steer the truck. Here, the weight distribution is very important. The weight distribution, when the truck or the vehicle moves, the distribution of the weight creates what you call it angular momentum. Angular momentum, which means momentum that work with an angle that with the line of travel. Suppose this is the line of travel of the vehicle. The weight distribution will allow this vehicle either to stay on that line or to bounce around that line. If the weight distribution is totally messed up, the vehicle can roll over when it makes turns or when there is a ditch on the ground. Now let us go through all these mechanics and physics of commercial vehicles to realize why you have to have a license to drive a commercial vehicle. And it is better, of course, during the license process to expand your knowledge about everything that has to do with mechanics, physics, and mathematics of this complex vehicle. This is a map of the United States with the 48 contiguous states at the bottom, Alaska on the top, on the north, and the Hawaii on the Pacific Ocean, and Puerto Rico in the Atlantic Ocean. You need a commercial driver license to drive your truck or bus in any of the states because of the safety, the high risk on the operator and the public. Who administer the safety regulation and the operation regulation to permit carriers or drivers to drive trucks? We mentioned that is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and we mentioned that we'll see a lot of communication with this agency if you have a commercial driver license. That regulates your employment, whether you can be hired as a truck driver, whether you can drive a truck, a bus, or a car, or any vehicle that transports hazardous material. When you get to the manual, you can get the manual from any state. All the states of the United States have almost the same material because all of the material are sponsored and supported by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration of the United States. In the first page, there will be an advertisement about human trafficking, using young girls as prostitutes across state lines, and how the government is trying to educate the public and truck drivers to report any illegal activity regarding the trafficking, truckers against trafficking of human children or women, immigrants across state lines. That is the first page. Let us now go through the table of content. What do you need to study to get your commercial driver license? In figure 1, what to study. What do you need to study to drive a commercial vehicle? It depends what license do you want. Do you want a Class A license, Class B license, or Class C license? There are 3 commercial licenses. We will know the difference between them. On the license, what kind of endorsement you want? You have endorsement hauling hazardous material. Some companies require you to haul hazardous material. That's up to you if you want it. Do you want to drive double and triple trailers like FedEx and UPS? You see that the triple and the double trailers on the highway. Do you want to drive a tank that transports fuel, oil, milk, water? Do you want to drive passengers, like having families or relatives or private vehicle? Or you want to drive a school bus? This is what we call it endorsement. Endorsements are added to the kind of license you are going to have. This is the kind of license you can get, the 3 licenses, the 3 commercial licenses. The 3 licenses you can get, and you can add to them the endorsements. The endorsements, you add them either in the beginning or later when you get your license. The endorsements are put in the back of your license when the highway trooper stops you to figure out, are you licensed to to operate these vehicles. The endorsements are behind the commercial driver license. Let's say whether you are allowed to drive the kind of vehicle you are driving, whether you're supposed to drive without eyeglasses, whatever restrictions that you have on your driver license are on that permit. What do you need to study? To get a license, Class A license, which we call it a tractor-trailer combination license. You need to study how many chapter units. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters. But we divide them in a different way. We divide those chapters, that's section 1, 2, and 3. Section 1 is the introduction. Introduction to commercial transportation, which I just explained to you, that you have a vehicle that is long, wide, and high, that has a lot of weight, requires certain mechanics to operate on the highway. So that is section 1. Section 2 is the safety. Driving safely, how to drive safely, how to keep the space in front of you, behind you, on the sides of the vehicle, during the day, the night, in the snow, in the rain, in the mountains, on narrow highways or wide highways. That we call it driving safely. That is section 2. Section 3, transporting cargo safely. What does it mean, transporting cargo safely? You cannot just put anything in the truck and jump on the cabin and drive. The cargo have to be distributed safely inside the truck, secured safely, to avoid what we call it imbalanced driving or angular momentum during driving. That is related to how to put your cargo or your goods inside the truck. Those are the first 3 sections. They will go under what we call them general knowledge. And the general knowledge is not over yet. This is the first section. You study general information about how to drive safely, the mechanics of moving a massive vehicle, how the vehicle stops, and how to put your goods inside. Then you need to study chapter 5 and 6. Those are very important chapters. We are still talking about the general knowledge. 5 is air brakes, and 6 is a combination vehicle. Air brakes will deal with the 2 things that we mentioned. The air is compressible fluid. You can put it in 2 or 3 or 4 tanks in the truck, and you can compress them with a compressor that is operated by the engine. And when you need to brake or to stop the vehicle, you supply the compressed air to the cylinders or the drums of the brakes at each wheel. That make you able to stop that huge, massive vehicle that have a lot of weight and traveling at speed that is generating momentum. The combination vehicle has unique property. Combination means a semi and a trailer. What you call it, tractor and a trailer. That is chapter 5 and 6. The first 5 chapters, 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 6, that is what we call it general knowledge. You apply for a license, a commercial license, before they give you a permit. Remember, before they give you a permit, you have to sit down on the computer and study this book. And you have to study chapter 1, 2, and 3, 5 and 6. You have the general knowledge that is related to the safety of driving, safety of the cargo, the air brakes, and the combination. The combination, because you have 2 vehicles connected to each other, they require certain space in front, in the back, and around to avoid hitting property, hitting people, or hitting curbs, and to keep the vehicle on the asphalt. You do not want to make a turn and drop one of the wheels in a ditch and you roll over. Let us now go to the last 3 chapters. After you pass, you have to pass these tests, which we call it general knowledge. If you pass it, you go to the next stage, which is getting a permit. The permit will allow you to put your hands on the vehicle, to be able to inspect the vehicle, to learn how to drive back, front and back, to get it on a highway to drive. You have to pass that general knowledge section. It is a verbal test that you have to take it with the state in order to get your permit to operate, to inspect, to learn anything about the truck. If you pass, we move to the next stage. If you don't pass, each state has certain rules. They ask you to come after 24 hours, they ask you to come after 3 hours, they ask you to come after another 3 hours, whatever. If you don't pass after 3 times, they give you another, I think, 6 months to come back, or certain, whatever the rules is, you have to know the rules of your state. After you pass the written test on the computer, we are going to take a lot of tests. We're going to see how these tests look like and how to pass. If you pass these tests, now you passed the general knowledge part of the commercial licensing process. Now we go to the second stage, which we call it the practical part. Now we have a permit now. Assuming you have a permit, you passed the permit. You will go through those 3 sections, the last 3 sections, 11, 12, and 13. 11 is the inspection. Inspection, you do that in the yard with an instructor, or you can read. The instructor will tell you how to inspect the vehicle from inside the cabin, from the left side to the right side, to make sure the wipers are working, the windows are working, the mirrors are working, all the controls are working, the horns are working, and the steering is working, and the seats are secure, and all this stuff. You learn that in the vehicle inspection. You pass the vehicle inspection, you keep trying, practicing on it. You inspect it from inside the cabin. Then you come outside the cabin, you start from the very front to the back. You have to look at the lights in the front, how many lights you have, about 5 groups of light in the front of the truck. Then you come to the side, you start from the wheels, the steer, you open the hood, inspect under the hood, you learn what is under the hood. You go gradually back to the right side, you make sure you know how to spot what is defective, what is not defective, what needs to be fixed. You learn about spotting leaks, breaks, and touching things to make sure they are installed the way they were supposed to be installed. You don't just look away and walk around. That's called vehicle inspection. You go all the way to the end, inspecting the tractor, the trailer, and the linkage, the tires, all the mechanical system. We call it vehicle inspection. That is after you passed the general knowledge. Now we are in the practical part. When you take your license, you have to do the inspection in front of the inspector. And the inspector will have a sheet, a table that has all the things that you need to inspect. Did you inspect the lights, the tires, the leaks, the linkage in the steering, the system you have a steering system, you have braking system, and you have a frame that supports the truck, you have the electric system, you have the cooling system. You need to make sure you have a general idea how they work. That's called vehicle inspection. You have that test, that is the first one in the practical test. Now, after that, or during that process, during the inspection will take you 2 days to learn how to inspect a commercial vehicle. You will be practicing on how to control the controls. The controls mean driving the vehicle forward and backing it line and backing it with angle, what you call it angle backing, and backing it with parallel backing or offset backing. What is the difference between blind angle backing and the direct angle backing. Direct angle backing when you see from your left window with your own eyes, not only with the mirrors, how the vehicle is being backed on the spot. That is called the control skills. You have to pass that test. That's number two. Number two, in the practical side, on the practical section, you have to know how to go forward, backward, offset, and angle back. After now you learn how to inspect the vehicle. You learn how to control the vehicle front and back. Now you have to go on the road. You will practice on the road for 2 or 3 days. On the road, what do you do on the road? You practice on 3 things on the road. How to drive in a city. The city has a lot of people, a lot of cars, a lot of lights. How to make a turn on the city without dropping the power lines, without running into stores, without crushing people on the crosswalk. That's called city driving. You have to do highway driving is number 2. How to drive at high speed, 65 miles per hour. How to change lanes, when to change lanes, which side of the highway you're supposed to be driving that kind of vehicle. How to calculate the distance in front of you and behind you. That's called highway driving. And number 3 is mountain driving. How to bring the car down the mountains and how to climb the mountains, assuming that the roads are okay. Of course, if you pass the general knowledge, the inspection, the backing, and on the road, you only have very basic skills of driving a commercial license, a commercial vehicle. You have to go through a mentoring with a driver with you. For some companies will ask you to drive for 200 hours. Some companies will ask you to drive for 6 months with another driver, because you need to learn how to drive in the snow. The snow is not all the snow is alike, because not all the roads are alike. You have to drive at night. You have to drive in the rain. You have to drive in different terrains, different time of the years. You have to drive with different weights, different distribution of weights. So you will require a driver to be with you while you're driving the vehicle for minimum 2 months or 6 months to become on your own. When you are on your own, you can still be a disastrous driver if you don't have the mindset for mechanics, physics, and common sense dealing with momentum, inertia, high energy, force, and the kind of complexity that you have in this kind of vehicle. These vehicles pose devastating risk for the operator, for the public, and for the property, because the vehicle has too many components. You need to learn how to spot bad brakes. You need to learn how to spot the proper connection between coupling between the fifth wheel, the tractor, and the trailer. You need to learn whether the fifth wheel is safe or not. You need to know the difference between an inflated tire and a deflated tire or a flat tire. You need to listen to the noises and interpret them. You need to be able to predict the danger of being out of line or exceeding the speed, the weight, and or driving the car on the wrong road. So the learning process will take you, after you get your permit, first you get the initial permit to touch the truck. That is called, you have a general knowledge. That permit will allow you somebody to teach you how to inspect, to back, and to drive on the road. Then you will need another 6 months or 2 months with somebody else with you to supervise you during the learning process. When you are on your own, you will take another 2 or 3 years to become experienced driver, to become experienced driver, to have a very good idea about the laws of physics and the mechanics that apply on every situation. Might take you another 10 or 20 or 30 years to have everything ingrained in your DNA.